Lawrence O'Donnell, you've been watching carefully, and I've been watching you.
Well, you know, one of the funny things about Pete is that he will claim that his health care legislation is much more practical and it's much more likely to pass. This is all being discussed in a fantasy world in which Mitch McConnell is not the majority leader of the United States Senate. There is no plan right now to make Mitch McConnell not the majority leader of the United States Senate. There are hopes, there are targets, there's a possibility it can happen, maybe, but there's absolutely no way on earth you're going to get up to, say, 57 Democrats or 60 Democrats that it would take to do any of these things. So the difference between Pete Buttigieg's health care proposal and Bernie Sanders' proposal is that they are equally unrealistic about the possibility of actually becoming law. Not one sentence of health care legislation that was discussed tonight has a chance of becoming law if Mitch McConnell is still the majority leader of the Senate, or if the Democrats have less than, say, 57 or so Democrats.
What could they have been discussing with that same amount of time?
Foreign policy, which was not discussed at all, which is pretty much entirely within the president's realm. Defense policy, the word China didn't come up in this debate. So there's plenty of presidential territory to discuss, and these debates inevitably spend a half an hour on health care legislation, not one sentence of which has a realistic possibility of passing. I heard Pete Buttigieg's strategy for passing his bill. He gave the strategy in New Hampshire. He says he's going to fly into Kentucky to have Kentuckians convince Mitch McConnell to do it. He's going to do that after losing Kentucky by 20 points to Donald Trump. It's pure fantasy world, this whole section of it.
Hey there, I'm Chris Hayes from MSNBC. Thanks for watching MSNBC on YouTube. If you want to keep up to date with the videos we're putting out, you can click subscribe just below me or click over on this list to see lots of other great videos.